The notice was bright pink, like a slap in the face. Violation, grass not up to HOA standards. Fine, $500. I stood in my front yard, staring at that paper taped to my mailbox, while the summer heat shimmered off the dead lawn. I wasn't even surprised anymore. Patricia Hendress, the HOA president, our self-proclaimed Queen of Neighborhood Aesthetics, had been waiting for this. To her, I was the lazy homeowner who brought down property values. To me, she was a clipboard tyrant who didn't know when to quit. Thing is, the drought that year was brutal. The city had restricted water use, and my grass didn't stand a chance. But Patricia didn't care. She wanted green, pristine lawns, even if the rest of us were baking alive. I could almost hear her smug voice. Rules are rules. Mr. Lawrence, if you can't maintain your lawn, maybe you shouldn't own property here. That night, I sat on my porch with a cold beer, staring at the brown patch that used to be grass. I wasn't angry yet. I was thinking. My wife, Mia, leaned against the doorframe. You gonna let her keep pushing you around? She asked. I smiled slowly. No, I said. I'm gonna give her something to really look at. Over the next week, I did my research. Desert landscaping, xeriscaping, native plants. Ways to build beauty without wasting a drop of water. Cacti, succulents, crushed granite, driftwood accents. It could look like something out of an Arizona postcard. When I submitted my new yard plan to the HOA, Patricia called an emergency board meeting. She sat across from me, lips pursed tight as a sealed envelope. This dessert theme, she said, wrinkling her nose, isn't in keeping with our neighborhood's aesthetic. I leaned back in my chair. You fined me for ugly grass. You didn't say it had to be grass. The room went quiet. A few neighbors actually smirked. Patricia's jaw tensed, her eyes narrowing like a hawk spotting prey. We'll review your proposal, she snapped. 2 days later, I got another notice. Denied. That was her mistake. Because if Patricia thought she could keep me under her thumb, she didn't know who she was dealing with. I wasn't going to just fight her. I was going to outshine her. Right on the same block she ruled. This time, my lawn wasn't going to break the rules. It was going to rewrite them. The first shovel of gravel hit the dirt like a declaration of war. My neighbor, Tom, stood across the street sipping his morning coffee, eyebrows raised. Lawrence, he called out, you turning your yard into the moon? Better, I said with a grin. An oasis. By noon, I had ripped up every last patch of the dead grass Patricia loved to complain about. Mia helped haul in bags of river rocks, while our teenage son, Jake, arranged them in sweeping curves I'd sketched out on graph paper. It wasn't chaos, it was art. And the best part? Every single part of it complied with the HOA bylaws. I made sure of it. The next day, a truck arrived with desert plants, towering saguaros, golden barrel cacti, aloe, agave, and a few blooming ocotillos. Each one was native, drought-tolerant, and approved under the city's water ordinance. By evening, the yard shimmered under the sunset, golds and oranges catching in the crushed granite. It looked alive, even without a drop of grass. But not everyone saw it that way. At precisely 8:04 a.m. the next morning, Patricia showed up, phone in hand, wearing her trademark wide-brimmed sun hat and judgmental smile. Mr. Lawrence, she said sweetly, what exactly are you doing? Following your rules, I said, wiping sweat from my forehead. No water waste, no dead grass, all natural materials. She frowned. It's not in harmony with the neighborhood. The color palette is earth-toned, I interrupted. Per HOA guidelines. For once, she didn't have a comeback. She just glared at the spiky beauty spreading across my yard, as if it personally offended her sense of control. That weekend, the transformation drew a crowd. Neighbors walked by, taking photos. Some asked where I bought my cacti. Others whispered things like, finally, someone stood up to her. By Monday, 3 houses down the street had started tearing up their lawns, too. Patricia's clipboard army couldn't keep up. When the next HOA meeting rolled around, I walked in to find a full house. Patricia stood at the front, flustered as residents complained about the watering fines and unrealistic lawn expectations. My project had sparked a rebellion. One man raised his hand. If we all switched to xeriscaping like Lawrence, we'd save a ton on water bills. The room murmured in agreement. Patricia's cheeks flushed red. She forced a smile. We'll review the landscaping guidelines. And just like that, her grip started to crack. But I wasn't done, because Patricia wasn't the type to back off quietly. And neither was I. It took less than a week for Patricia to strike back. One evening, I came home from work to find a bright orange tag hanging on my front gate. Code violation. Unauthorized landscaping modification. My stomach dropped. But not from fear, from amusement. She'd really gone there. Mia stepped out, holding her phone. You're gonna want to see this, she said. On our neighborhood Facebook group, Patricia had posted pictures of my yard with a caption. Some residents think they're above the rules. This isn't Palm Springs, it's Maple Ridge Estates. The comments section was chaos. Some neighbors sided with her, saying I'd ruined the neighborhood's green charm. But most were defending me. Looks way better than brown grass, one wrote. Another said, it's called innovation, Patricia. Still, I knew Patricia wasn't just venting, she was scheming. The next morning, a city code enforcement officer showed up. Got a complaint about non-compliant landscape materials, he said, scanning the yard. I handed him my permits, receipts, and the HOA's own bylaw copy. He flipped through the papers, nodded, and said, You're good to go. Whoever filed this doesn't know what they're talking about. I smiled. Oh, I know exactly who it was. That night, I drove past Patricia's house. Her perfectly manicured grass glowed under sprinklers, a shimmering rebellion against the drought rules. It gave me an idea. The next day, I reported her. Not out of spite, out of poetic justice. Within days, the city cited her for excessive water use. The fine? $750s. Word spread like wildfire. Patricia tried to keep her composure during the next HOA meeting, but her voice trembled. Certain individuals, she said, glaring directly at me, have decided to weaponize city regulations. I leaned forward, calm as a breeze. Just following the rules, Patricia. You taught me that. The room erupted in quiet laughter. Even a few board members chuckled. But Patricia wasn't done. The next morning, I woke to find my yard vandalized. Succulents uprooted. Gravel scattered. A few broken cacti. My heart sank. Mia gasped, covering her mouth. She wouldn't. She would, I said coldly. I called the police and filed a report. They took photos, dusted for prints, and left promising to investigate. Later that day, a neighbor's doorbell camera footage confirmed it. There she was, Patricia, sneaking across. My yard at 2 a.m. with gardening gloves and a flashlight. She wasn't just the HOA president anymore. She was now a criminal, and I was going to make sure the entire neighborhood knew it. By sunrise, the footage had already made the rounds online. A neighbor posted it to the Maple Ridge Facebook group with the caption, "Oh, President caught red-handed." Within hours, everyone had seen it. Patricia, in her fancy night robe, ripping up my succulents like a deranged gardener. When the police arrived that morning, she was standing in her driveway, pale and trembling, trying to explain herself. It was a misunderstanding, she insisted. I was just checking for fire hazards. The officer wasn't buying it. At 2 in the morning, with gloves and a flashlight, they handed her a citation for trespassing and property damage. I didn't press for an arrest. I didn't need to. The public humiliation was more than enough. Later that afternoon, the HOA called an emergency meeting. The entire neighborhood packed the clubhouse, standing room only. Patricia sat at the head of the table, but the power she once wielded was gone. Her clipboard was missing, her eyes red. The vice president cleared his throat. Due to recent events, we'll be voting on removing Mrs. Hendress as HOA president effective immediately. A chorus of eyes filled the room. Not a single hand rose against it. Patricia stood slowly, trying to salvage her pride. You're all making a mistake, she said. You think one man's desert yard is going to change everything? I rose from my seat, calm but steady. It already has, I said. Look around, Patricia. People are tired of being told how their homes should look. The crowd nodded, murmuring in agreement. A few even clapped. Patricia grabbed her purse and stormed out, muttering something about ungrateful neighbors. After the meeting, several folks came up to me. Tom, the old guy across the street, even a few who used to fear Patricia's wrath. You did it, man, Tom said. You made this place better. In the weeks that followed, Maple Ridge Estates transformed. Lawns gave way to cacti, stones, and native flowers. The water bill for the entire community dropped by 30%. Even the local paper ran a story titled, Homeowner Turns HOA Battle into Sustainable Movement. And my yard? It became something of a landmark. Birds nested in the ocotillo branches. The agave bloomed tall and proud. At night, solar lights made it glow like a quiet desert dream. One evening, Mia and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset spill across the rocks. You ever think you'd win a war with plants? She teased. I chuckled. Didn't need to fight her. Just had to grow something better. The pink notice on my mailbox was long gone, but the desert oasis stood tall, unbothered and free. Karen's gone, but the HOA drama never ends. Smash that like button, subscribe for more crazy neighborhood stories, and comment below if you've ever dealt with a Karen like this.